Hello, welcome again to the Wealth and Women podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking about how we've all successfully forged amazing careers, and we're going to give you top tips on how to get there yourself. So, welcome to the Wealth and Women Financial Podcast. We previously covered how we got into the financial planning role and financial coaching roles. In this episode, we're going to talk you through our real life experiences on how we've then progressed into the successful careers that we have today. So, Tracy, how have you managed to develop your career and really progress to the top?
To the top. I think I'm still fighting for the top, really. But yeah, you start off. I started as a trainee financial planner, and then you become a qualified financial planner. And there's a lot of grafting and everything, and it's been a journey of about 18 years that I've been in this industry now. But for me, how I feel I have got to where I am is perseverance, setting goals. And sticking to it, not giving up. I think that's key. And you have good days and bad days in your job, don't you? And I think it's so important having people to lean on. I don't think I would be where I am now if it wasn't for the people around me. Definitely not. I think my nature means I don't want to give up. I hate quitting. I hate failing. I hate it. But I truly feel that if I didn't have the right support system around me, I don't think I'll be where I am. I truly don't. I think Emma's been a huge help for me. And I think you probably say the same as well. And then I've got other colleagues as well where I lean on. But yeah, I truly feel perseverance. Don't give up. Give yourself goals. You need to know where you want to go. Just little goals. You don't have to be huge. Okay, you've got the big picture. I want to be here, but you got to take the baby steps. Success doesn't happen overnight, does it? So and set realistic goals as well, not just from a career perspective, but I think as an individual as well. I don't like presenting as in front of an audience. That terrifies me. It petrifies me. So I'm now learning to do that. I'm doing that now. I'm presenting to accountants and solicitors. I don't like doing it, but the buzz I get afterwards is fantastic. And I'm learning more about myself, aren't I, by doing that? So I think that that's how I got to where I am now. And I'm still fighting. I'm still setting my goals.
So it sounds like you're getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think that's a lot of this job.
I think that's where it is. And at times, and probably I've discussed it in the past, but through my career, I've struggled with imposter syndrome. Where I've kind of gone, I know nothing here. I know nothing, and it's kind of discussing that, and having people going, actually, don't think you can't do it. You can do this. And it's just having that confidence in you to kind of go, get through it, get through this bad time, and keep fighting. Don't give up. Truly don't give up. I think people can give up too quickly, and I've seen it in this industry, especially women. I've seen where the training they have become financial planners, and then they haven't stuck to it, and they've gone down a completely different route, and you kind of thinking, oh, that's a shame. If you just stuck at it and not listened to that one bit of negativity, you could have been a really, really good financial advisor. You really could. So I think it's really important that we have a lot of people around, advisors or just in general, to encouraging, don't listen to that negativity, encourage one another.
Do you think as women are, how do you put it, do we take it more personally when we have criticism? Is that something you viewed, or?
I don't know whether it's just women or just me. It's hard, isn't it? It depends on your personality more than anything.
I take it personally. So
do you?
There's two women here that do.
It depends. It depends, really. It depends on who it's coming from. Okay. It depends on who's, like I've said in the past, I've had, just in general, where someone has said to me, oh yeah, you won't be good at this. And I turn it around and kind of go, well, I'll prove you wrong. That determination, but not everyone's got determination, so that can affect people going into this industry, because they are listening to to this thinking, oh yeah, you won't be good at this because of the X, Y, and Z, or from your background, or you just so it's kind of going, we need to stop this. We need to stop this negativity. We need to be encouraging and talking, and hopefully this kind of podcast will make people realize, oh, actually, yeah, I can do this. Everything's possible, isn't it?
It is. And I also think, just on your point, we would take criticism personally if we just get negative criticism. There's a difference between criticism that might be slightly based on your characteristics, which is personal, and constructive feedback on how you've actually performed.
Yeah.
And I think that certainly in my career, I've had probably a lot of the former, where it's just about how you actually are. And of course you're going to take that personally, but so you do have to block out the noise, and I think filter feedback as to, is this person important? Do I value their opinion? And what is their opinion based on? And actually think about it properly.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
It's interesting how you talk to award winners, and people tend to celebrate and applaud people in events like that when they give you an award, but they don't appreciate the years of just pushing through and dealing with challenges and so on. And I think goal setting is very accessible when you have a clear career path, and I just love the way you started from like the bottom of it and worked your way to be where you are at the moment, and then the peak is where you want it to be, whether it's chartered and fellow and so on. From my perspective, I had to pivot. And so I quickly realized when I was in my 40s that I can't afford to go from like to the origins of the career in a traditional business model, because I did not have the time nor the inclination or the will to go administrator, paraplanner, go to all this. So I had to really ask really tough questions of me. Do I want to continue and be in a position where I could have just failed because I wasn't meeting all this, the demands of a traditional business model, or I just listen to my intuition and just go with what I want to get done, with the sense of purpose, with the people that I want to be with. And so I sought mentors, and I sought people that I could talk to and open eyes and open doors. So now I have a really good network of people, and you go on LinkedIn and you see the majority of people who really back me up and pick up the phone and say, hey, I really love that thing you wrote, keep going. Or I have there's an amazing guy called Sam Holmes who literally, he said, I so believe in your passion, and hearing someone who says that and puts you in front of, and I said, well, look, I'm not sure because of my accent, because of this, because of that. And they said, just listen to your heart and speak from the heart. And if it's one person in that room that you can absolutely inspire to go do better, greater things, just go do that. And I think that worked for me and allowed me to pivot and seek that sense of joy and reward from whatever I was doing, and not being really feeling like I need to be limited by someone's idea of success, someone's idea of where I need to be, what career path I should take. It was almost like turning your radar on and kind of looking for the clues, and look at other people's successes and failures and look for clues there. Because I think that's, learning from personal mistakes, but also people's mistakes and failure is as, if not more powerful, to give you that sense of direction and guidance and inspiration to kind of go, just like you said, if you think I'm failing, well, I'll prove you wrong. If you think, someone failed doing the same thing as you did, maybe it was the wrong time, the wrong place, the wrong person. It doesn't mean that is the end. It doesn't mean that you should give up. If the part of you, the intuition in you says, go do this, maybe you will find a better way.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, you mentioned there about mentors. You went out and found mentors. How do we go and find mentors? Where do we find them? Because I think that's something, again, when we were younger in the industry, there weren't really any I can think of that I would be looking up to, certainly not in the business that we worked in or businesses we worked in. How did you find your mentors? How did you do that?
So I think like I said, I had to ask really good questions of myself and picture, visualize what good looks like. And for me, it was a combination of financial knowledge and expertise, but also good financial coaching. And so I looked at whomever was in the industry. And to be honest, I didn't have much choice. So Simone Nesson came up on my radar, and it was Catherine Morgan came up on my radar, like people who are doing things earlier on, and men as well, but women, to give me that the belief that it can be done, you know, and kind of hang on to that. So for me, it was like looking at what good looks like, who is a few steps ahead of me, and kind of connect with them through LinkedIn to kind of go, what are they doing? What sort of things are they doing to get it right? And asking myself, do I really want to do that? And then go and talk to them, and you ask questions, and the better you are, you know, the better you get at asking the questions, the better answers you get. And it's funny how people connect with people, and I think through the magic of social media and LinkedIn, people are more connected. You don't need to be in the same village to have access to really inspiring people. And by the way, I think mentors, you should have more than one, because it's more dimensions to what you're trying to get at, especially in financial coaching. I think for many years, people have just chosen to make things up as we went along, because there is no recipe. You know the outcome, you know what you're trying to get done with people, but there is no recipe for that. So different people can bring different dimensions, perspectives, and clues in terms of what success could look like, and just do that, you know, look around and open the mind to what's possible or could be possible.
I think I did sort of a similar thing, actually, because I there weren't any mentors, certainly. I was looking for female mentors, I think, more than anything, a female that I could look up to. And I think as I progressed in my career, I started reading books by like Sheryl Sandberg, Lean In, Karen Brady's book. You know, I was really impressed that they were women in what would be male-dominated industries, and really, you know, going for it. And I remember going to Bristol City Football Ground, and Karen Brady was talking there, and I put my hand up and sort of asked, you know, what advice would you give for women that are in a male-dominated industry? And I can't remember the exact words she said, but she basically made out that she doesn't really think about it. She just goes in there and she's herself and just cracks on with the job that she does. And I thought that was fantastic to hear. You know, don't worry about the gender thing, which I think is a good thing. That's the way it should be. I don't think it's probably as simple as that, but that's, I think, the way it should be. But I was very much about goal setting in my career. I've always had goals since I was young. To start with, it would always be, I want a nice car or on a nice holiday. It was always assets orientated. But as I've developed and gone through, it's changed into more actually, you know, am I happy? What life have I got? Have I got a balance? They're the sorts of goals that I set. And I think I remember reading books about people like Richard Branson and Dyson, and I used to read these mini biographies. And what I found with a lot of those, because a lot of them were men, but they almost felt like a bit of a cutthroat attitude to get to the top. And it didn't sit well with me. So I think reading about other people's stories and, like you say, making a decision about what fits and who you are and which path you're going to lead, I think that's always been a driving factor in becoming successful and getting to the top. Know who you are, be very genuine in that, and stick to who you are. And then I think actually, because you're genuine, it starts to happen naturally. But being quite driven and goal setting, I think, keeps you on a certain path and lets you know you're going in the direction you want to be. I think the other thing, you know, we talk about networking and developing a client base, and it's something that I do. I think you have to be conscious of the time that you're spending doing that, making sure you've got a purpose. I prefer to go networking when there are certain events on, like an activity that we're doing. I'm not that great at walking into a big room full of people and just going off and chatting to everyone. But I mean, Hazel, you're brilliant at networking. You're doing a lot of it. Would you have any tips about how to make the most of networking?
I think it comes to going to places where you are going to meet the right sort of people, but also going there with an open mind. So we all know networking can be quite daunting if you go to any time you meet people who you've not met, but particularly if you know you're there all to try and meet each other. So going there thinking, what value can I add to this conversation makes a big difference. Instead of looking at it, right, who do I need to meet? Are they going to refer me business, which is a quite narrow way of looking at it. Think, who do I know who I can connect people with? And when you bring that value to a conversation, you might meet someone who they are working in an area that you think, well, this is probably not someone who's going to have mutual clients for me, but you have a conversation and they know someone who you can help. And it transpires that actually they then, you connect with them. It's creating serendipity, I guess. You just create opportunities to meet more people. And when you help people, they want to reciprocate.
Yes.
So if you help someone for no other reason than to help them, chances are they're going to want to help you back. So I think just thinking about it with a really big open mind instead of in a very narrow way. From a practical sense, if you're really nervous, get there first, because then the second person to come into the room will talk to you.
Yeah, really
So
that's
that's
really
a good idea. Quite useful. Yeah. But I do think building networks is really important, not just for building your client bank, but coming back to how to have a successful career. So when I think about networking, generating business is only one aspect of it, but having relationships with people outside of the firm I'm working in, peers who can support me with challenges I might be going through in my workplace where I don't want to talk to my colleagues for obvious reasons. I've had some pretty difficult times in my career where I've completely lost faith in my ability to, I just didn't think I was a good financial planner and didn't know where I was kind of going with anything. And I had people around me to say, Hazel, you're being stupid in the nicest possible way. We know you're good. Back yourself. So networking is more than just business generation. It brings so much, having good networks.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that, actually. When I sat down and had a really good think about what do I get from networking, I think you naturally will pick up a clients. But for me, I think what you've said, it's actually being able to work across lots of different agencies, I guess, or with different professionals. I always think part of our job is just making sure that all of our clients' needs to a certain extent are met. And that might be actually seeing a solicitor or a lawyer about something, or, getting a really good accountant involved. And I think going networking and in the right sort of networking, you will start to really meet the right people. And I think when I refer my clients to somebody, I like to have met them face to face so I can get a real feel for who they are. It's just something that I personally believe in. So that's what I tend to use it for, is actually usually just getting a really good breadth of people who are really good at what they do, so that when I hand my clients over, I know they're in really good hands and they'll get the service that they deserve.
I agree. And I also think the other thing is to be yourself when you're networking, because it's very easy to think, I need to impress somebody, but hopefully they're probably thinking the same when they talk to you. And if we just kind of forget all of that noise that's going on in our heads and we just have natural conversations about the things that are important to us, whatever's going on, today people might talk about the football if they were going networking tonight, and you're going to build relationships in a much more relaxed and natural way. And I think, every financial advisor, if they meet someone, is going to say that they're the best financial advisor if they're trying to get business. So that's a kind of a given. But actually being the right sort of person for that individual to think, I trust this person. I like the way they interact. I like the way they say what they mean. They will probably work with you and build those proper relationships.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's relating, isn't it? They might feel like, I understand your personality. I know your nature. These clients of mine, they're going to love you. You're going to build a long-lasting relationship with them. I think that's key. Because I live up in North Wales, and, Welsh is a lot of people speak Welsh there, so there's not many Welsh speaking advisors, so I get a lot of, a lot of introducers like to refer me on purely because I can speak Welsh, and they feel you're going to build that client's going to feel comfortable that you're going to communicate in Welsh with them, and that you can relate. I know, like, especially farmers, I know how they work. I know their mentality, and sometimes they feel that, oh gosh, you're a business person in a suit, you're too corporate for me, you're too posh. But actually, when they find out, actually, no, I'm one of you. They realize they let the guards down, don't they? You can see their shoulders going, all right, they're calming down, and they feel comfortable with you. And So yeah, so it's really important to sell. Just be you.
Yeah.
Just be you. Don't be ashamed of who you are.
Yeah.
No.
Do not be ashamed. Don't pretend to be someone that you're not,
Yeah.
because you can only act that way for so long.
It would be completely exhausting.
Yeah, it'd
Yeah,
be, so
it would,
just be
wouldn't it?
you. Just be
Absolutely
you.
would. When you talk about being yourself, there's been a couple of occasions, I think a few years back, where I used to really like brightly coloured dresses, really bright, and I had this bright orange dress, and I remember tottering in to like a networking event full of men with grey and blue suits on, and I was like a big orange flash in the middle, like, hey.
You're going to be remembered. That's the thing.
Yes,
That's
I
the
don't think
thing.
anyone could forget me in that dress. There was a few of them, but I felt comfortable and I felt good in that dress, so that's why I wore it. And actually, yeah, people will. It might be a conversation piece, rightly or wrongly, I don't know, but it sort of got me talking to people. And I think you're right. You have to be authentic. If that's what you feel comfortable and you're best in, then that's what you wear.
Yeah, it's funny people talk about niche, and especially when you are in a business coaching environment. When you look at the business, and one of the topics that comes up is who's your niche, client segmentation, and we talked about this endlessly of a post RDR, and a lot of people talk about we provide retirement planning and things like that in terms of like this being specialized in something. I think ultimately the importance of that niche conversation is about who you're trying to create value for, and who will what type of culture and environment you're welcoming people into, and who you're trying to build a conversation that will spark joy and allows you to be your authentic self, and actually be at that point where you feel like you're at your highest level of contribution. And actually, when people connect at that level, disregarding of what it means for the business, I think that really can drive some really powerful conversations. And that's when people come together from a place of not who you are and putting yourself in the limelight, but actually knowing who you're talking about, and how the people around you can really spark that fire in you and continue that momentum for that client to really benefit from it, and to really have that absolutely amazing experience when it comes to financial planning. It doesn't matter who delivers the message. It doesn't matter who makes the recommendation. It matters whom receives that, who's at the receiving end of that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that's one of the biggest changes probably in our industry over the years, is that it's all about what can I do for you, not what can you get for me, which I think it used to be back when we first started sales, all about sales and commissions. And now, like you say, you go into network and you think, which client of mine will this person sue? Is there anybody actually that they can help? And it's getting that holistic service together. I think that's changed quite a bit over the years.
Yeah,
I think that's also a lot about confidence, particularly working with clients. I've been talking to some people recently, doing some training on how to have meaningful client conversations. And I still think there's a perception that you need to go in a room and impress people with how much you know. And actually, I think one of the things that everyone in this room is really good at is realizing that the most important person in the room is the client. And actually, when you let them know that that's the case too, they're so happy to share everything, because they know you're going to get the best outcomes for them. And it's the same when you have any interactions with anyone. If people think that you think you're the most important person in the conversation, they're not going to be interested in that conversation.
No, definitely not.
Actually, I think one of the things that we do in coaching is not putting the client first in terms of like putting them on a pedestal and it's all about the client, because ultimately it's all about the relationship you build with that client. It's a real partnership, it's a collaboration. And actually what really helps in certainly our conversation in planning, and I know you ladies do that, I know that it really helps when you look at the client as a source of expertise. Ultimately, they're the best at what they do. Meaning they know what they're going through. They're the best of understanding themselves. And if you keep pulling that thread and make them as accountable, as responsible, as important in that planning process, that's when you get the most result. I think that's when you get the best results. That's when you have the most inspiring conversations ever, because the value you create, if you lead with the value that you're trying to collaborate with on. Like
Yeah.
it's a partnership. We create value together.
Yeah.
Okay. And it comes from their value system.
Yeah.
They will let you know what's important to them. But it's not down to necessarily, I keep hearing about this. Oh, let's, beforehand, it used to be, let's put you through a sales training. Now we're putting people through listening training.
Yeah.
It's like,
Mm-hmm.
really,
Yeah.
really, I think as human beings,
Yeah.
we've evolved this communication thing. So I think we're able to listen. But what you listen for, that's another thing. So that's when I think it's, if you lead with value, that enables people to show up in the best possible shades of grays, and connect on a very human level.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I remember there was a statistic, I think it was Stephen Bartlett actually, or something along those lines, where somebody had done, I think it might have been Julian Treasure, had done a podcast about how to present and talk. And the number of people that had watched it was ridiculous. And then he did one about how to listen effectively, and the number of people that listened to it was like very tiny. And so I think you're really onto something. That is what our job is about a lot, isn't it? Is learning to listen effectively to people and really, really hear what people are saying and taking it in. I think that's like a really interesting point.
And I think that,
sorry, go ahead.
and I think that ultimately you were talking about, achieving a level of wanting to get more fulfillment rather than achievement. And I think there is a point where you start trading achievement for fulfillment. And as a professional, when you reach that point, you trade quantity for quality in terms of networking, because you make time for people who, not like-minded people, because you don't necessarily want that, but you want people around you that fire you up, inspire you to best you can be, that completes you, people that really complete you. You don't have to be jack of all trades. You keep on your lane and you bring people along with you, to create that snowball of energy. And I think that's the most, to me, that's the most important thing.
I'd absolutely agree with that. And Tracy and I, again, because we've known each other for so long, we always talk about that, don't we? We're quite different in personality, but actually we've always had the same drive and same goal.
Yeah.
And I think we've always complemented each other in terms of what you're good at and what I'm good at, and vice versa. And we're quite honest with each other. I think if we need to improve things, we will be very honest about that, but we always encourage each other to keep going. And when I've had these exams that I'm still struggling with, you're like, come on, Em, you can do it, just keep going, and I'm like, yes, okay, she's championing me. And we look up to each other because we've done so well.
And I think a reason that why we do this as well is because we have no other woman there that we can lean on. We have no we've never had that senior woman there. I've never worked with a senior female before, and I still don't to this day. And it's a shame, isn't it? And by us behaving this way, encouraging one another, hopefully what we're then doing as well is the other women that, are new to the industry, we're leading by example, aren't we? And we want this empowerment, don't we?
I think so.
And creating this path for women to kind of go, this is how we've done it. This is how we've got to the top. This is our attitude. And this is how you encourage more people, men and women, to the top.
Yeah, I feel quite a responsibility actually, particularly in the business we're working at the moment. There are a lot of female advisors. It's quite unusual. But I feel a big responsibility to make sure that we feel, or they feel we are supporting them and listening to the path they want to go on, and how we encourage that and how we support them through it. And I think that's something that we need to do more of, I guess.
Them watching you support each other is so powerful though, because you're supporting each other even though you're at the same level in terms you started at the same time. Someone mentioned earlier about how it can be quite cutthroat in the profession. So to be modeling those behaviors, which is where our profession needs to go, even though you're not doing it for them, you're doing it for yourselves and each other. You're modeling what the future should look like, which is fantastic. And I think it's important to do that in all areas of work, is to support your peers, try and get rid of this jealousy or competition between people.
This dog eat dog kind of world. It's not like that anymore.
No.
I don't feel. I think you might disagree. But I feel maybe it's because of who I work for. I don't have that feeling. Maybe it might be different for yourself. You're more in the city. I'm not.
Yeah.
So there's more competition.
I don't feel it where I currently work, but I have had experiences in the past where it has felt like that. And I do think it does exist, and it can still exist in small and large organizations, just depending on the culture from the top. And I think then in those cultures, you just need to kind of take the risk of leading by example and saying, well, that might be how you guys do it, but I'm not doing it like that.
Yeah. And I think the term culture is so important. I mean, it's not just a term. It's not just a buzz word. It's something that really creates energy. Not only that it enables a business to attract talent and the type of people that you want to, to create diversity in ideas, but also approach and perspectives. But it creates this momentum in terms of attracting clients as well. I find that word of mouth really works. I mean, I collaborate with employers that make financial coaching available to employees. And actually, every single time we onboard a new client, there's a huge amount of resistance from people to jump on a call, even though the money is not on the table. You take the money off the table. You say, this is a service for you, for your benefit, and hold back. Now, it only takes a few conversations with the brave ones to kind of go, wow, this is absolutely what I haven't really thought about. You didn't make me feel stupid. It was a safe environment. There was no judgment. All these things that really make people talk about what I do. I don't have to market what I do. And I think if we were to understand this, the power of culture and the power of delivering quality and value to the client, that has ripple effects. And you talk to women mostly, they talk about these things. You don't have to pick up the phone and sell yourself. All you have to do is basically channel your energy onto that one person in front of you and try to help them as much as possible, to empower them as much as possible. And the rest, it just takes its course.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I couldn't agree more. I think company culture and it coming from the top is the big thing.
It's huge.
It is. It'll filter down, and as long as, like you say, the newbies in the company or anyone underneath can see the people at the top are making the right decisions and they're all about the clients and aware of their employees and what their needs are, and that everybody's different, and actually not everyone's driven by money, for example, then it all starts to, filter down. And I think that's such a big thing.
Yeah,
really
I actually, I remember. I was thinking, I was about 8 years into the job being a financial planner, and I kind of thought, this isn't for me. This isn't for me. And I was actually looking at alternative, thinking, what can I do next? And I found another job, another employer, but to be a financial planner. And I was still thinking, I'm going to leave the industry because this job truly isn't for me. But I kind of thought, I'll accept the job. I'll give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? And I'm so thankful I took that job and I didn't leave the industry, because in fact, what it was the culture I didn't like of the previous employer.
That's it.
And in fact, this one is so client focused. So it's a company that wants you to grow, do well. And we're a company that get inundated with leads. Plenty of referrals. We're not looking for them because they're coming in. And that's truly because we're so client focused and there's such a healthy culture that it makes, I find this job the easiest job in the world, because I'm not working all hours God sends. It's very flexible. It's fantastic. But it's quite dangerous that when you're working in a company with a poor culture, it puts a bad label on the industry, and it discourages certain people to join the industry that actually could have been fantastic. That would have been a huge asset to the industry.
So true. I mean, Tracy, the amount of time I remember when I was more focused on business coaching and just unpacking all the areas of the business with the financial advisors and their teams and so on, it shocked me the amount of money we're throwing at marketing and flashy websites when I knew the quality of the service. And I said, well, you must align the two, because the truth sits in those conversations. When they walk through the door, virtual or physical, when they talk to the people, they will know it in their hearts if it's a home for them or not. And that speaks for the client and also the talent. Like right now, you can write amazing job descriptions to bring in all sorts of amazing talent, but your ability to keep the talent and build something that is robust and sustainable, a boat that will float whatever the storms, that is down to the culture.
I think you've made really important points there. So I almost left the profession twice, once when I was a mortgage advisor and once when I was a financial advisor. And both times, obviously, I didn't, which I'm very glad of. But it is that it's a scary thing to do, to move to a different firm, particularly if you're not happy where you are, because you think, is it me? Not is it the culture? But you do just have to back yourself. And that would be my sort of tip for anyone who's listening to this, who's umming and ahhing about any sort of decision they have in life at the moment. What have you got to lose is kind of my ethos when it comes to my career. And even as you get higher up, you've probably got a bigger salary to lose if you go somewhere where you're not happy. But if it's a choice between staying somewhere where the prospect is permanent unhappiness versus taking a risk at being happy somewhere else, then it's kind of a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah,
and you will find your place. There's an analogy, I'm going to try and get this right, but an analogy that I like about having a plant. And if you have a plant on the windowsill and it's not thriving, you don't think, oh, there's something wrong with that plant. You put it in a different room and it thrives. And that's how we need to think about ourselves.
Oh, you do so well.
Yeah, I like that one. I heard that. It's really good. That resonated with me as well. I love that.
But isn't it, to the point. Yeah, but isn't it great when you reach that point in your life when you can say no?
Yeah.
When you can absolutely give yourself permission to think like a person and not like a tree. You're not a tree. You can move. You're a person. You can thrive somewhere else. You just need to find that environment where you thrive. But it takes a lot of strength and it takes a lot of belief. And this is where we talked about earlier about mentors. Connecting with people who are 2 steps ahead of you will always give you the measure of your value if you lose sight of it. And there will always be the people who will actually speak from a place of truth because they've been there, done that, and they can give you that measure of, okay, well, there's plenty for you to go on. Just keep doing what you're doing or change. Go do something else. At least you have had those conversations rather than focusing on the pain you're feeling, which is, by the way, is normal. And I think as you grow, you feel the growing pains, don't you? At any given stage, you were talking about earlier about the imposter syndrome, Tracy. That's like a classic thing that shows up. But not being clouded by that and actually looking beyond the pain for the next, getting yourself equipped for the next climb, that is so important. And looking for the lifeline, professionally and personally.
So we've talked about the pain of moving and sometimes you do have to move roles. Well, I'm sure you all have you negotiated pay rises and promotions and how have you gone about doing that? Because this is something that a lot of particularly my female friends ask me about. They get quite frustrated at the fact that they're being piled more work on them, but there's no pay rise coming and they feel a little bit uneasy about asking for a pay rise or asking for that promotion. So have you gone through that, Alina? Have you done that? How did you successfully negotiate a pay rise or make sure that you could progress?
So for me, it's still work in progress. The people brand it as know your worth and so on. And I think as you grow and feel comfortable in your skin, and you are value conscious, you get to kind of look around and research and kind of go, okay, what is the reasonable price I put on my time and energy and my expertise. So the privilege of running my own business is that it's a responsibility also to find the right price point where I feel happy that I'm paid for my time and I deliver the value that I deliver. But it's interesting how many times it shows up in my coaching conversations, because sometimes, especially women are, they struggle when it comes to spending, and they go, okay, well, where can I cut? And sometimes we just get to the point where we say, well, you just don't have enough income for all the commitments that you have at the moment. So what do you do about this? So usually what I do with my clients, and it's something that I try my best to stick to, is creating an intrinsic value statement, which enables you to lead those conversations from a place of value that you deliver. And I do remind people that negotiation is a conversation, and if you stick to that and you show up as professionally as possible with confidence in your value, magic happens. But the trouble is, with women, as you know, confidence comes from competence. And I am yet to find the women who are 100% confident in their competence, and they know their competence because they have that, visibility on the value they create. So hence my intrinsic value statement. And I always urge them before they, because a lot of them say, oh, I just moved jobs. The easiest thing, I get my 10% increase, I'll be happy. And I just said, well, if you're happy with the environment you're in, if you're happy with what you do, the value you create that statement. And simply, before you have that conversation about salary, just think about the things that you're good at in your currently trade for making money, things that you're good at but you're not monetizing at the moment, things that you could be good at if you had the opportunity to expand. Usually we have interests and hobbies and also that we put at the back of my mind because it's not something we use in roles and functions and so on. So we tend to forget how good we used to be at doing things that we felt really strongly about, right? And then not in the least success stories, which women are incredibly poor at because they have no practice for this one. And success stories about the things that you've really achieved, that really you got energy from. And again, if you run out of ideas, because women tend to be focused on mostly other people, making sure everyone else is happy. But as a rule, just again, go back to mentors and peers and ask the question, when am I at my best? And they will tell you, oh, do you remember when? Or do you remember that project we worked on? Leaning into other people to remind you of that value and bring that statement to date on an ongoing basis. It will help you. I find with new mothers, for example, big milestones in life can put especially women in a situation where they do struggle. They have an identity crisis. There's so many hats they wear, they forget who they are in the process. And so having that statement, it really helps them to ground, to reconnect with the fact that they are the same person, just thinking differently because aspirations and priorities and circumstances change. And so staying in tune with who you are and it will allow you to come from a place of the value that you create. So, and if you focus on that value, I think those negotiations can be key. But again, it doesn't beat the research. So go and research who does the same things that I do and how much are they paid.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's always sort of factual stuff that you have to start with, isn't there?
Exactly.
That's the way I've always done it as well, sort of looking out there, what are people in my position getting paid within reason. I've always built a case, almost like this is where I started, this is the amount of business I brought in, these are all the client testimonials to say that I'm happy, that I'm doing the job well, and that sort of thing I focus on. I'm going in there with confidence and with an idea of actually what do I want and why am I worth it? Not just going in and saying I want a pay rise because so-and-so is earning this and I want the same. I think you've really got to build the case and really show the value. Sometimes in figures, I think having the black and white figures can help.
And it's not an easy conversation, is it?
No,
it's not an easy conversation.
It's
like nobody wants confrontation, do they? And you feel like, oh, is this going to go a bit sour? But you have to have belief, in your worth. You have to. Don't underestimate yourself. If you truly feel you're worth this, then you should fight for it. But your employer should be able to see that, though. Your employer should be able to see it. Like if they don't see your value or your worth, then is this the right employer for you?
100%.
Yeah.
I also think as well, we've touched on the evidence of how good we are, but also let's not forget how good we can be.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's really important. And I think my most recent changes have been through changing job. So it's closest in my memory. But I know that I have said, I have got experience leading committees. I've got experience doing this. So I know I will be a great manager. That's not the job I'm doing right now, but that's what you want me to do in the future. I will be great because I can do X, Y, and Z. And I think that that's something that I think research shows that women don't generally do, and potentially for lots of complicated reasons that we won't go into. But just remembering that we can be promoted, we can be paid more on potential, not just on what we've done in the past.
Really good point.
Well, it's quite funny that you say that, because I remember after coming back from maternity, and it was quite kind of the opposite to what you've said, where I know we wear all these hats, and you might think, oh gosh, I'm not worth this and the other, but I literally just came back from maternity and I asked for a pay rise, and I said the reason for this is because of X, Y, and Z for the future. This is what I'm going to be doing in the next 12 to 18 months. And they went, yes, that's fine. And I think I had about 25% pay rise just purely based off of that. But I had to have a bit of courage. I was a bit like, oh, I've just come back from maternity, am I pushing it? But no.
All those new skills you have as a mother.
And that's what it is, isn't it? Time management. I'm really efficient and more efficient than what I used to be. But yeah, don't be scared.
I think you're right. For a lot of, especially the outliers, the high flyers, the super professional, the super successful, they lose track of how hard the journey was to get to the point where they feel comfortable delivering the value they deliver. So a lot of times professionals take it for granted, thinking, anyone can do this. You forget that not anyone or everyone can do this, but also, especially women, a lot of times they stick to their comfort zone because of that loss aversion. What if I lose my job? I have a few kids at home too, that I need to keep well and fed and clothed and so on, and I need to contribute and so on. I need flexibility. I need all of those things around me. A lot of women see themselves as a liability first and then as an asset later, right? So the fact that you have that drive, I think that can only be, if you decide to be a mentor, Tracy, to remind women that you mentor of that. You need to have the strength, but also to reinforce. And an intrinsic value statement is for those who don't have that drive and skill within to kind of go, no, this is my value. I stand tall. I know what I'm about to, and I know what I'm set to deliver. The fact that I had a temporary setback because I've taken a bit of a career break, it doesn't make me less of an asset. In fact, just like you said, a lot of women can actually deliver equal, if not more work within a shorter period of time because they have all these plates spinning at the same time. I've seen it, you've seen it, we know it, everyone knows it, but the fact that this doesn't show up in conversations, I think that's very important. And you're right, it's a responsibility, it's a dual responsibility for the organization, the management, to actually prompt those conversations and make sure that in those regular conversations there is a safe space where we can talk about this as a conversation, not as a confrontation, with the sense of opportunity, i.e. what's the next level for you? So you don't, as humans, if we don't grow, we slowly die. Basically, exactly it's within us to get to the next level. So how you paint that picture, how you move the flag to the next level, just like you ladies said, goals are important, but how do you do that? You can't do it on your own most of the times, right? You need somebody to actually go with you and paint and put that on a map and kind of go, and this is the next level, this is the next checkpoint. What are we going to do about that?
That's a really good point, because I think a lot of people work really hard doing what they think is right to get them to the next level, but if they're not having that conversation with their employer saying, this is where I want to go, you might be channeling all your energy into something that isn't going to get you where you want to go. And also, if they're just not aware, you're not on their radar. So just on always having conversations about, this is my aspiration, in an unashamed way. We can all aspire to be the CEO. We're all capable. Anyone's capable of achieving anything. So let's not just tell everyone if that's what we want. And okay, maybe years and years off, but then people start talking to you about the steps to get there.
Yeah. I think you've encompassed it really well. I think definitely the cultural thing, making it the norm for people to be able to ask about pay rises and what they need and what they want, and that should be normal. I don't know why it isn't. I think that you'll always get people in companies that are very driven and will probably, like us, who will walk into a room, even though we're a bit scared, and say, I need a pay rise and this is the reason why. But there are always going to be people in companies that they just can't get past that barrier to walk in. So having that culture where actually it's almost expected of you to come in and talk about it, I think that will make it a lot easier. I mean, I have got a very good friend who I've had conversations with her about she needs a pay rise, and the company's fobbing her off with, oh, well, we just haven't got the money in the budget and we haven't got this. And I hope she doesn't mind me saying, but, she'll start almost making excuses for the company of why they can't afford to pay her. And I said to her, if this was about your children, for example, you would be going in there and fighting for what you need, and she was like, oh, yeah, she's so passionate. She loves her children to pieces. But why do you have to go to that extreme? Why you shouldn't have to. So I think you're absolutely right. It's the culture that needs to change probably still, and for it to be the norm to talk about earnings, money, the path that we're on. I think that's definitely something that needs to change.
For your friend, sadly, one tactic which I've never had to use, but I know apparently works, is if someone's not giving you a pay rise, go somewhere else and get an offer from someone else. The only thing I would say is when you get to that point, do you really want to stay at the company that didn't value you until you were halfway out the door?
Right. Yeah, absolutely right. I said the same. I said, you either go in there and you just stand up for yourself and ask, and the worst that can happen is they're going to say no, or you move on because you're not being valued.
Yeah.
And that's that. And that's what she did. She's got a new job.
And this is what I think gradually, what I enjoy seeing in the financial planning industry is the fact that you see gradually functions and roles who are being more visible and more recognized and more celebrated. Because if you think about, way back when the most celebrated were the financial advisors who were closing the deals and doing the sales and driving the business and assets under management and so on. And everyone else felt like a little cog in the bigger piece, but not visible, not valuable. And, they would often say, I'm just a power planner, or I'm just an administrator. So gradually, feeling valued is the one thing, whatever stage you're at, to feel like you have a voice, you can influence. I think there was an anecdotal, I think it was a story to do with Toyota. I think someone was walking around the factory, and they stopped, and someone was sweeping, and they asked them, so what do you do? And instead of going, well, I sweep, I'm a maintenance guy, they said, we're here to build the cars for the the future, whatever. And he gave the whole spiel about the mission and values, but really instilled down to that person in maintenance, because they really understood that what they do contributes to the greater impact and success of that business. And I think if we were to do more of that, whatever stage you're at, whether you're a grad, an accomplished, administrator, power planner, financial advisor, coach, mentor, whatever, if you feel like you have value, I think that puts the fire in your belly, and you can go and be unapologetic about that.
What a great story.
I loved it. So thank you very much for joining us for the Wealth and Women podcast today. If you enjoyed the content and you'd like to find out when the next one is due, please do follow the PFS on YouTube or LinkedIn, or by any means give us all a follow on LinkedIn as well. Thank you.